Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another standard information training session. Today, we are going to be going over setting up custom verticals. In the first video, I believe, or one of the very first videos, we went over setting up the platform and setting up verticals using the vertical templates. Today, we're going to talk about creating verticals from scratch. To get there, we're going to go to dashboard, and then under presets, we're going to click on verticals. This will bring up all of your existing verticals and allow us to add new verticals. Creating a vertical from scratch allows you to change every part of the data format, any field names, full customizability, including the response back to vendors or to data coming into the platform. So this is a fully customized solution. So you can set up any data type, any setup. It can be XML, JSON, and you can fully customize this. But in doing so, there are a couple things you do need to know to set this up correctly so it will work. So to add a new vertical, we're going to click on the Add Vertical button in the top right-hand corner here. As I mentioned before, we always recommend that you use the templates. You can also start from a template and modify the template and work from there. And that's typically the easier thing to do to set up. However, if you want to create a vertical from scratch, start completely clean, this is how you can do that. And so we're going to click Create Vertical from Scratch. We're going to create a name for this. So we're going to call this Solar Simple Form. And we're going to create a simple form for a solar project here. And so we're going to go ahead and click Create. This is just going to show up and kind of show you the basic naming format here. An example of some of the things you can do. First thing you need to do is you just need to click Save here. This is going to create the vertical and put you into it. So now it is editable and we can change everything around here. So again, like mentioned, this is an extremely powerful way to set up any vertical and any file format that you want, but it does come with some caveats here. So a couple quick things is that you're going to have this nesting structure. So anytime you put the dot or the period, it's going to create a nested function here. So it's going to create a parent and a child. We can go ahead and delete these to start off with. And then we're also going to show you how you can edit both the response going back for the ping or the post or in multi-buyer response here. So to start off with, the very first thing that you guys need to do is we're going to need to throw in the auth code. And so I would recommend using the field name auth code, although you can name it anything you want. This is fully customizable just because it matches the default ping success response that we have here. And this is going to match to TXID. So this is how the system is going to match pings and posts together. So we're going to go ahead and click auth code. We're going to select data type string. And then we're going to go over here. We're only going to require it on the post because this will be returned on the ping and then sent in the post so the system can match up the ping and the post here. We're going to match it to TXID. I would always recommend putting in a description here, especially when you're creating custom verticals. This will show up on all the documentation. So this will be very helpful for your vendors so they understand what it is that you're asking them to send in. If there's no documentation, then your vendors probably have a hard time testing in the platform, and this will speed things up significantly. So we're going to go ahead and say auth code passed on ping that must be returned on the post. In ping post, not required, or actually we should say default can be used in direct post. Great. So we're going to save that here. And this one we don't probably need an example, but this is the very first field we're going to put in. Next thing we do, we can just start adding our fields here. So we're going to do a simple solar project. So we're going to start off with the nested setup because I personally like it a little bit better, although it is not required. And so we can do something like first name like this, and this will just create a single, and you can see the whole code being built here. So it'll be first name here, but let's do a nested one. So we're going to do contact.firstname. What this is going to do is we're going to say this is going to be a string, and we're going to go ahead and click save here. And this is going to now create contact and then contact.firstname. So this contact is the parent element, and we're going to put all of our contact information under this. So we have our contact.firstname. It is a string data type just because it is you can click on the drop down. Most of them are self-explanatory here. String is just going to be any numbers or letters that you're going to pass through. So obviously name is going to qualify here. Number will be strict number. You can put IP addresses. Boolean needs to be true, false. Strict list is going to be an option list. Suggested list is going to be something where you can provide a list in the documentation to a vendor, but we're not strictly validating on it. Date time would be for originally created or date time format coming in. Email, pretty self-explanatory. Phone number, US zip code, USD amount, all pretty self-explanatory, but most of the time you're going to be using probably one of these first ones here. So we're going to go string. We're going to do this first name of lead. We're going to set the example, John. The example will show up in the documentation. The description will also show up there, so it's very important. The PII field, so person identifiable information, so John is, so we're going to click yes. And then most of the time people will not require this on the ping, and so it would just be required for the post. If you're just doing direct posting in, so there's no ping post, then I would just turn off the ping requirements just to keep things simple, and then you'll see all of that on the post. And then you can select from the system field mappings. So these are all the field mappings. So since you can name any field anything that you want, if you want us to be able to use things like the App Store or certain backend functions in the platform, you want to match it to an existing system field. Sometimes we're going to do some custom fields that just don't have a system field mapping. And so if that's the case, don't worry about it. And then that's going to be pretty much what you need to set up this contact.first name. So we're going to go ahead and add another one here. So we'll do contact.last name. Same thing. Last name of the lead, John. We're going to go Doe. It is not PII. It is PII, not on the ping. And we should have this one here. So last name. Matched here. So now we've created a very simple vertical here. So click save. Now it's going to order that under contact. So we got last name and first name. So we have most of the requirements here. So technically this is a fully created vertical. And so you could stop here. This would have basically allow somebody to submit a first name, a last name for ping post purposes, and then connect the two. But we're going to go ahead and add a couple more examples just so you can kind of see how some of this other stuff works. So let's go ahead and do, let's see, the next thing was do project. So let's do project type. So this is pretty common. We'll create all this lowercase so we keep our formatting the same. And so this will, instead of being a string, let's go with a strict list. So this will be an option list that you would say, hey, we're only accepting certain project types here. And so we'll go ahead and click save. So that'll create, we need to actually put in a strict list here. So project.project type, we have a strict list. And so we're going to go all the way over here. So this one does not have a system field mapping because this is a project type, is not something that we already know in the platform. So we can skip that one. We're going to click on edit strict list items. And this is going to allow us to create a list of items. So a enumerated list for vendors to send into. And so we're going to do, say, rooftop solar is one, and then we'll do solar and battery, and then maybe we'll do battery only. So this will give us 3 potential options here. So we'll click save. And so now if you click back into it, you'll see your 3 options. You can single add or you can copy and paste this in if you already have a big list of items that you're working with. And so we have basically all the requirements for our strict list here. We want to put a description in here. So it's going to be type of solar project requested by customer. Great. For the example, we have 2 options now. So we can use the first list item since we put in the list, or we can put in the manual input. We'll use the first list item so it matches. Very simple. And this one we'd probably want to require on the ping and the post. And the last thing is if we want to set a default value. So this can be if somebody does not pass in something, we can default a value here. In this case, we'll leave it because we already have this required. So if we click save, that's now going to create our project type. So we now have a very simple form here. And so we'll add one last field just so we can use some of the other ones. So we'll do project dot megawatts. And so this might be a solar megawatt percentage or number coming in. So we'll do this as a number. So this is going to require a number. So say we'll have, I don't know, 80 as a description. So megawatts of the project estimated by customer. So we'll go ahead and put that as a description. We'll go ahead and click set example, and we'll just do this number. We'll just put in a number, 80. And then this one we're not going to require on ping and post. And so this would be essentially an optional field for vendor sending this in. Again, we don't have a system field mapping for this since it's a very custom setup. And so we're going to skip over that. And essentially that's going to be it. So we're going to click save. And so now we have a very simple form for solar where we have the contact, first name, last name, project number of megawatts, which is optional, and the project type, which is a list of items. And then, of course, we have our auth code here, which is very important, which is linked to our TX ID. So this is essentially the bare minimum to set up a vertical here. And we'll just briefly touch on some of the more advanced features that we have going into this. So you can do arrays. And so if you would like to set up an array field, you can do that. You can just click that on. You can also click subverticals. And so this would allow you, if you want to do, multiple projects or multiple vertical types under a single master vertical. So this might be in a case like this where we have like battery and solar. So it would be either a battery project and you'd have some questions about the battery project, or a solar project and some questions about the solar project. You could turn that on. And then, of course, our defaults, which we already mentioned here. And then the last thing is if you want to hide a vertical from the specs, you can do that. Hiding it here will remove it by default from vendor specs. You can turn that on per vendor in the vendor campaign section. So if you wanted to have a specific field that you're using for your internal things that you don't want listed for other vendors to see or other external people to see, you can hide the verticals there. And that'll essentially show you how to do the simple vertical setup. So again, you can customize this and you can turn this into any kind of setup. So you can accept any kind of data type. Going down, again, you should probably, I'm just going to finish on this just so you know it exists. But everything is editable. So you can, of course, change the response on the ping and the post. Changing the JSON format will update the XML format down here. So you only need to edit the top here. And so you can change everything about this. I would only change this if you have some specific thing that you're really looking to do. But of course you can. And of course you can always reach out to support if you need help with any of the field namings or how this is going to look. But all of this is editable, so you can fully change the vertical around and change it however you'd like. And then the last thing I will kind of touch on is the Amelia AI assisted data correction, which I would always suggest leaving on. And this is going to allow the system to autocorrect mistakes that people have when sending in data into the platform. For example, if someone was, put a space between roof and top in the list here, or capitalized something or misspelled something in here, the system would autocorrect it and still allow it to come through. And in this field, this is very important since it will help get more data into the platform and makes it far more robust. So with that, I'm going to wrap this one up. I hope this was helpful. This is, again, how to create custom verticals and the requirements around it.